what's up, everybody? Welcome to C3 Films. This is an open discussion. My name is Chris, and this is.
Cheryl.
And today we're going to be talking about The Mandalorian, the first two episodes of season three. As of this recording, and when this video goes out, we would have only watched the first two episodes, which is all that's available to us. But we are going to be getting into spoiler territory for those episodes. So if you have not seen them, go check them out on Disney Plus if you got it, and then come and see what we had to say about it. But let's go ahead and jump right in. So the first episode of season three starts off with us seeing Death. Oh, I don't. Do they call themselves Death Watch? I don't remember. I don't know if they call themselves Death Watch, even though that's what they span from. But we see the Mandalorian conclave that Din Djarin is a part of, and they're kind of having this ceremony where they're kind of donning a new Mandalorian, or they're honoring the incoming new Mandalorian, which is this kid. And you can see that they have much more members than they did when we were seeing the Book of Boba Fett. Because in the Book of Boba Fett, they were down to just two people. They were down to the armorer, and I forget the other guy's name, and that was just the two of them. But now we come into this at the beginning of this episode, and they have many more numbers than they had previously. So, and that's going to be important for later, but it's trying to show how the order is strong in this moment. It is actually growing, and it's getting stronger than it's ever been. And then those proceedings get interrupted when this kind of cool alien alligator turtle creature attacks them, and so then they have to fight, and like they're protecting each other and everything else like that. Some Mandalorians die, and then our lead character Din, he comes in and he saves the day in his shiny ship. So, and that is the beginning of the first episode, and then we'll go into like kind of the things that occur throughout the next two episodes, and talk about things that I think that worked and things that I didn't. But before I get too much into that, like I guess in general, Cheryl, how are you feeling about coming back to the Mandalorian, specifically the Mandalorian, after all this time? Because it hasn't been that long because we saw him in Boba Fett. But what are your thoughts?
I was kind of bummed because I felt like it wasn't very good. Like the whole, especially the first episode was kind of slow, but I feel like I don't have a lot of good things to say about it. It just feels like kind of a big disappointment from where it first started originally. I mean, I think my biggest problem is like I don't really understand why things are happening because they don't make sense.
Okay.
And he's just kind of doing things instead of making decisions, right? Like he's not actively making choices. He's kind of, and the choices that he make are kind of weird, but we can kind of get into that later. My first reaction though is why are they fighting this giant crocodile when they can just go into the cave or leave? Because
hey, it's killed some of their own. They gotta kill it.
people are dying. Yeah, I mean, it's an animal. It's not like a guy like coming after you to kill you. He just wants to eat, and you just have to leave if you don't want to get eaten.
You guys all have jetpacks. Just get the heck out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I can see them attacking it because it attacked them first, and they're Mandalorians. They got their pride.
Well, too much,
yes.
maybe.
Yeah, right. I mean, they're basically space Spartans, but yes. So I guess we're just gonna jump right into this then, because also, so it sounds like you didn't like it. Playmat in the chat was talking about it wasn't that good if you compare it to the first two seasons. And to truth be told, at least for the first episode and part of the second, I didn't really like it either. I felt like it suffered from the fact that it was trying to deal with the reality that not everybody who's watching Mandalorian season 3 watched the Book of Boba Fett. And so you had a lot of things that were important that happened in the Book of Boba Fett that if you did not watch it, you would then be confused, because the end of season 2 ends with Grogu leaving. The beginning of season 3, he already has Grogu. The end of season 2, he did not have a ship. In the beginning of season 3, he has a shiny new ship. And at the end of season 2, he had a Beskar spear. at the beginning of season 3, he no longer has that Beskar spear. So there are a lot of like big moments that took place in an entirely different show. And it felt like because of that, because even in the Book of Boba Fett, um, Din Djarin talks to. That's when he becomes an apostate. But they tell him that you took off your mask, you took off your helmet, and so you are no longer Mandalorian. And they tell him you have to go bathe in the rivers of Mandalore or whatever. So he knows what his task is at the end of the Book of Boba Fett. But in this first episode of the season, he goes back to the armorer, and they essentially have that same conversation over again because they need to explain what the point of this season is going to be. At least the initial couple of episodes are going to be for like the audience that did not see the Book of Boba Fett. So that already starts making the first episode feel very weird because it feels like we're wasting time going over things that happened in another show, but you feel like you need to go over here because of the fact that you know that not everyone else might have seen that show. And these are only usually like around 30 to 35-minute episodes. So you don't really have that much time to like really get the ball rolling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think in the last time, like previously on, they actually used parts from
Boba
Boba
Fett.
Fett.
Yeah.
So why didn't
Yeah.
they just do all of that then if they were gonna, yeah. Anyways, but you're right. I mean, I think if you were gonna watch Mandalorian, you probably would have watched Boba Fett. But then Boba Fett also wasn't very good, so I feel like it took a while to get good, and it was only good when it was about the Mandalorian. So it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of weird. I feel like there just needed to be some kind of separation, or not. Maybe it shouldn't have. Maybe Boba Fett should have been season 3, and this should be season 4.
Yeah. I mean, I personally think that Boba Fett should have
Not
actually
ever been
focused.
made.
No,
No, I'm
it
just
should have been
kidding.
made. There's a story to be told there. I just think that they kind of lost
The
the focus. But
essence of Boba
yeah,
Fett.
that's like the I think that's the biggest thing. There's some interesting things going on there, and then it becomes a Mandalorian show, and there's plenty of things to mine just for Boba Fett. So I actually was not happy that Mandalorian showed up in, or that Din Djarin showed up in Boba Fett because it kind of took it away from his show. And I understand that his show was actually doing that well anyway, but they could have told a better story. So,
Yeah.
but
Did we do an episode of Boba Fett? Because
I'm pretty sure we did.
I
I feel like we did.
I feel like we do. Okay. Well,
Yeah. Either way,
I don't want to talk
anyway,
about it again because
yes,
I didn't
but
like it. I'll just put it out there.
so, but yeah, the point is that no, you're right. Like, it feels weird that these are two different shows, but they're kind of almost the same show, and so yeah. But going into like what then continues throughout the episode, it starts to just kind of feel like it actually, for lack of a better term, it feels like a bunch of filler crap is happening, and maybe this is stuff that will come back later. But before we start the stream, you were talking about how you were dealing with space pirates in the game that you were playing, and that's fine, but I don't necessarily care about these space pirates that I've never seen or met before, and that never really showed up in the previous seasons. So when they come here in the first episode of this season, and you see like basically Davy Jones seaweed version, I'm like, I don't really, I'm not really invested in this. Like, you haven't done enough to make me care about this plot line, especially because I'm coming into the season thinking it's going to be about retaking Mandalore. And that's much more interesting to me. So I want to focus on that. When you're talking about going back to Mandalore and like taking the planet back for the people, that seems like a really cool, like season long story arc that I want to see, bringing the Mandalorians together. So when I start seeing these pirates, this side quest to get to get IG's brain back in, and then it doesn't even work in the first place. So it kind of just feels like, okay, so this isn't really going anywhere unless I guess it comes back later in the season that IG is able to be used, at least for like this first episode or two. It's like this isn't interesting enough.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really understand why we have that kind of pirate subplot in the first place, but I think the part that really bothered me about getting the nanny droid back was like we already saw it like get destroyed, so why destroy it if you're just gonna try to bring it back? And then
Death is
also like
impermanent.
yeah, but I mean while I get that like maybe you can just salvage the memory core or whatever, like it's just that he's trying so hard to get this one droid, but he doesn't even like droids, and like I guess I kind of get it, but then
It saved his life. So
yeah, but
yeah.
then it's also just the whole thing. So he goes there to get the so he tries to get the droid. They say like, "Oh, we need this part." And if they can't get it, then no one can get it. And he's like, "Well, I'm going to go get it." And then he goes to whatever planet that Bo-Katan is on.
Hmm.
And then he leaves. So we're like, "Oh, so he's not going to go get the part?" And then he goes to Tatooine to
Hmm.
to look for the part, and then he goes back to like where does he
To the
go back? He goes back to the
he goes back to Mandalore. He goes back to
he goes
Mandalore
back to
himself.
the system, and then he's like showing on the map like, oh, that's where
Right.
Bo-Katan is, and we're like, wait, so you went to the Mandalore system to talk to Bo-Katan, and then you left the system to go to Tatooine, and then you went back to the Mandalore system, like
Yeah.
you're going back and forth. Like, why? I don't get the reason why. Like it's almost like when they were editing it, they like I don't know, skipped a page or like accidentally moved a page in the wrong place.
No, what happened was they wanted to have Bo-Katan show up in the first episode, so that's why. Even though it would have made more sense, you're right, for him to just he's like, I'm gonna go get the part. Why wouldn't he just go straight to Tatooine and get the part, and then after he gets the part, go to Bo-Katan and say, I'm ready to join you, and I have a way to scan the surface for, to see if it's poison or whatnot. Even though Bo-Katan probably has her own way, she also has droids. She also could probably scan the surface, but there's
No.
and then
She's
that
too
gets
because she's too busy sitting in the throne room waiting for
by
unexpected
herself.
visitors.
I'm like, yo, so you just sit on that chair all day? That's just where you live now. Just like, all right, Bo, you know, you do you, boo, you do you. But yes, and like that kind of leads us into the second episode a little bit. I mean, at the end of the first episode, there's a cool space battle, and that like looks good on screen. Like visually, this show always looks amazing. And the planet, I forget the name that Bo-Katan is on. Like that planet looks nice, and even when they get to Mandalore, like the visuals of Mandalore, while desolate, also look nice. But he ends up getting a droid that is given to him by the lady on Tatooine. So he ends up just getting a droid that's completely not IG anyway. And then he puts the droid out of the ship to go and scan the readings. The droid goes missing, and he gets out of the ship anyway.
Yeah, so he didn't need all of that. Like all of that was just a waste of time. Like all the droid stuff going back to I forget the name of that planet, Moist Isley or something. No, no, not
Isley, I think it's Mos Eisley. Yeah, I
is
think you're
it?
right. Yeah, that sounds
Um
correct. That sounds correct.
is yeah. Well, yeah.
He goes back there.
Like why? Why
Yeah.
like for the space pirates? I don't know. Like going back like have a better reason to go back. Or if you're going to go back because you want to like see all those characters again, um like make it actually work. Like get the robot, get the nanny robot back. That would have been more compelling than to get the R5 unit and then him having to go out again anyway. Or maybe
Yeah,
it would have
like
been
make it so that
too
you actually get IG.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
no,
IG
you're right.
dies
You're right.
again.
Right.
And then you have to get Bo-Katan.
Yeah, and it's interesting because they actually like that first episode also is almost kind of like a let's see where people are. So like we all know that Cara Dune, the actress Gina Carano, had some issues with Disney, and so she's not returning back, and she'll never be back in that role again. But rather than just saying like she died or something off screen, they just say that she's been recruited to another faction or another like military unit or whatever. But the character of Cara Dune is still alive in the Star Wars universe. So at least that's cool. They didn't just kill her off screen or something like that to get rid of her. So maybe that character will come back at some point, played by a different actress. That being said, Yes, when he ends up just getting an R5 unit anyway, and then gets out, and then he has to rescue the R5 unit. He does one scan in one area of the planet, and then all of a sudden is content with being that, with concluding that the entire planet is, it must be safe. So it's like, okay, I sure, let's. I guess we're just moving ahead, and then we go into the
Yeah.
next part of the episode.
And no one ever thought to check.
Yes,
It was
yes,
that
no.
easy to check, apparently. It
Mm-hmm.
takes like 5 minutes.
Right, and so then it also made me ask, like, well, what is it about Mandalore that they need to retake? Like, I thought that, yeah, the planet might have been poisoned, or maybe it was still it was still being occupied by like Imperial forces, that like remnants of Imperial forces or things like that. So I'm kind of curious what the obstacle is for actually rebuilding Mandalore.
Yeah, because apparently Bo Katan lives like on the planet next door, and she never thought, hey, maybe I should go check and see if it's habitable yet.
Well, I don't. Well, for her, she did say that there's nothing magical about the rivers, and I think she even said like the planet wasn't cursed or something. But I can't remember if she was talking about how it's uninhabitable, or I think she was just saying it was a desolate rock. But still, like when she does show up, like with the idea that it could be poisoned and everything, we're just gonna assume that the R5 unit, when she got it from Grogu, that she got the confirmation that the planet wasn't poisoned. But it is kind of strange because she goes immediately there. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so, but
Yeah.
we'll just say off screen that she knows that it's not poisoned or whatever, and that it's safe, because then she's taking her helmet off willy nilly while she's there.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, I figured if she, like, I kind of questioned that too, but I was like, well, I guess if Grogu's getting off the ship and just, like, not worrying about it, then it probably, and she knows that Mando was there, so, huh.
Yeah, yeah.
But,
But so anyway,
um,
one of the
yeah.
things one of the things that like was getting to me was that, because so we talked about how the conclave at the beginning of episode one was growing, and then we see Bo, like, it's just all that stuff is gone, like all our people are gone, like, which I also was weird. I was like, no one stayed, not even your not even your homies from like the Mandalorian season two. Like all of her people left because she didn't have the dark saber, or she returned without the dark saber. And I'm like, okay, for the sake of this, putting you alone, I guess fine. And they're also just trying to do a juxtaposition of how like the conclave is growing, her order is like basically non-existent anymore, so she's where they were at one point. Um, but I was really curious what they were going to do with her story, and I still am, because I know you haven't finished Clone Wars and stuff yet, but Bo-Katan makes her debut in Clone Wars, and she's one of the few characters that is played in live action by her same voice actress. So Katie Sackhoff voices her in the animated show and plays her in live action, and that character has a very cool arc throughout that storyline, and which leads to her having the dark saber in Star Wars Rebels. And so, and then as we know, she loses it off screen and stuff. But I was curious what they were going to do with her storyline, because her storyline seems to be leading to one of redemption for the mistakes that she's made in the past by bringing Mandalore back together after being a part of the reason it collapsed in the first place. But it seemed more so like Din Djarin was going to be the one that's going to rally everybody around him. So I'm still trying to figure out how I feel about that, because that feels like that should be her story and not so much his. Like you said, like he even says he had never even been on Mandalore until that moment, and he was having trouble wielding the dark saber still, and then we get to see her wield it, and I think that's like the best thing in these first two episodes is actually getting to see Bo-Katan use the dark saber in a fight and like wield it like a boss. Like that is the most exciting part of like the first two episodes, or the second episode specifically. And I am just and but then at the end, she's still a cool character because she's like not trying to steal it from him or anything. It is his, and she recognizes that, so he takes it back. But I really want to see what they're gonna do with this character for her story and where they go from here.
So I thought that her kind of being there to rescue him was going to be the opportunity for her to take it back or like get it back because he didn't have it on him. So in a way, like, I mean, maybe I'm thinking kind of like in Harry Potter, like once you defeat someone, then you become like the owner of the wand.
The elder wand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But like, I mean, that's kind of how I like was thinking of it, but I guess that didn't really happen, so I'm not quite sure what they're gonna do with that. But it was kind of interesting to see that she's always saving him in that, episode, like twice in one episode.
Twice in one episode.
Which it's a little confusing for me because I was like, why does he need so much help? And I also thought, like, okay, so I guess we're going to talk about that in part now.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, so he goes into the water to be bathed and he's like reciting
The creed.
the creed, and then he gets pulled down into the lake, and it's incredibly deep and it's incredibly big, which I wasn't really expecting because I thought it was just going to be this little pool. But then when he went in and she dives in after him to save him, I was expecting like a kraken or a giant monster or something, but she doesn't see anything. She's not attacked by anything. She just finds him laying at the bottom of the lake, this very deep lake, and she pulls him up. And as she's going back up, she's ascending. She sees
Like
the
Minotaur or
mythical.
something.
It's like the mythical monster that she had just been talking about, like when she was reading the little placard. And so I was like, why, if this monster was the thing that like pulled him down, like
So,
why did he pull him down, leave him at the bottom of the lake, and then just like chill?
so that's the thing that I guess is the disconnect. He didn't get pulled; he fell. The
That
steps weren't
deep?
there anymore. Yeah, well, he has armor on. He has armor on, and the steps gave out. So when he stepped off the edge, he just sunk straight down. He took his jetpack off, so he couldn't get back up.
Oh.
He's wearing Beskar armor. Beskar is heavy, so he just sank to the bottom. So that's what happened. He didn't get pulled; he just fell, because it was a giant ocean. It's like stepping out onto the beach, and you think there's going to be a footing, and then there's just a cliff, and so that's why he fell. And so she dove in after him to save him. And as they were coming back up, them seeing the creature had nothing to do with him being down there. The creature only served to kind of give Bo a kind of like to reinstill her faith, because she thought that this was just a children's story, and she laughed about it, and she's mocking it like she's mocking his faith. But at the same time, she's like still at least a little bit respectful to him because she respects him. She just thinks the faith is ridiculous. But now when she sees this creature that she thought was just like, yeah, our ancestors tamed, haha, yeah, oh well, yeah, for sure, whatever. And she sees it and it's like, oh, this thing actually exists. There might be something to this. And so now she has, I guess, she's going to have renewed vigor to like go and get the planet back. But I'm just curious if that's going to if that's going to lead into this idea that his religion is right, because it's kind of not. They like, I guess within the context of the show, you don't really know, but in the context of the Star Wars universe, these people have done some terrible things and have been a problem for Mandalorians. And like Bo does say that your faction is what is the part of reason why Mandalorians like split apart, like Mandalore splintered. So I'm just kind of curious where they're trying to go, where they're going to go with all this.
Yeah. But see, that's the thing, is that by the end of the second episode, that's
We still
when.
don't know.
No, I mean, but that's okay. It's okay to not know, but what makes it good is wanting to know. And, it becomes interesting by the end of the second episode. It just took a while to get there, and there were a lot of choices in the first and beginning of the second episode where I'm just like, why are you doing this? Like,
Yeah.
what are you showing? What are you trying to show me? I don't understand why you're showing me this. And then there's also the whole thing of like, he's not actively making a lot of the decisions. Like, things are just kind of happening, and like it kind of becomes like, the beginning is just like well, now I have to do this, and now I have to do that, and it's like a trail of doing things, but not really like giving him the chance to make choices. They're not choices, they're just like it's like a laundry to-do list.
Right. Yeah, because we all know that also bathing in the mines what does that really mean? It doesn't actually mean anything, but it meant something to him, and so, but his character, nothing happened. He didn't even see the Minotaur or whatever the thing was called. So,
Mm-hmm.
And I actually don't know how he's gonna go back and prove to his conclave that he bathed in the mines.
Yeah, I was talking about that too while we were watching it. I was like, how is he gonna prove it? Take a picture or like a hollow picture, and then like, oh well, I
Send
guess
it to them.
yeah.
Right, look at me, y'all. I'm in
Look,
the
I'm in the
mines.
lake.
Yo.
I'm bathing.
Yes, exactly.
But he has a witness now. But like, they just have
Yeah,
to.
but Bo doesn't even love those. Bo doesn't like those people, and they don't like her either.
Yeah, so like they just have to take their word for. I don't know. It's stupid. Like they shouldn't have thrown in the line. I'll prove it to you. Like I'll just do it. Maybe he'll just bring them there and that'll be the proof. But
Maybe. I mean,
also
I'm
like
sure they thought about it.
they're gonna
So.
go there obviously at some point. But
Yeah, but I don't know, man. They have new episodes every week, and I felt like the second episode was better than the first episode. But even then, the first episode still had. I mean, the second episode still had like a couple of issues, and I guess. And the one reason I might be giving the second episode like more of a pass is just because I got to see Bo-Katan wield the dark saber and be awesome, which I'm all for. But what you said is 100% right. Like, Din had to get rescued twice in that episode. It makes you wonder, like, it makes you wonder, it's like, yo, dude, like, how have you lived this long? You're supposed to be better than this. Um, but it's been funny watching Mandalorian and the Bad Batch like on the same day because we usually start with the Mandalorian and then watch Bad Batch afterwards. And every time Bad Batch has been better than the Mandalorian, and it's like, oh man, this is not what I was expecting. I thought that this show was gonna like kill this other show that was apparently more for kids, even though the last episode makes you question that. So one last thing I wanted to bring up regarding this, which I do think is interesting, is how Bo-Katan mocks Din's religion, but at the same time, she would not take the dark saber when he offered it to her at the end of season 2, because she believed that I have to win it in battle, and even now, no one's around. She could ask for it, but she hasn't. She's told him to go lead their people. But the point is that she is not going to take the dark saber unless she feels like she has bested him. But that in its own way is a kind of religious belief. It is kind of a religious doctrine. So she has her own kind of code and morals that she's willing to follow and adhere to that he thinks is ridiculous. And then his whole thing about not removing his helmet and stuff, she thinks is ridiculous. But they both have kind of these kind of dogmatic beliefs, and at the same time can't understand why the other one believes what they believe. So I thought that was a little interesting.
I guess it's like just this is the way of the Mandalorian.
Right. This is the way.
The Mandalorians are.
Right. And yeah, and Playmat, that's a good point. Like it's just honor instead of faith, but even like the belief in honor is a kind of like I don't want to say it's supernatural isn't the word, but it is a belief at the end of the day. These are still just beliefs.
It's like a way to live by, and
yeah,
it's like it's different, but it's also the same because the only thing that's really stopping you from doing things or forcing you to do things is your belief, and whatever you call it, it's the same.
Right. And because at the end of the day, if it's really just about getting this dark saber, just take it and do what you got to do. Get your planet back, girl.
Yeah.
You need to get the planet back. No one else is here on this ship except these 2 Mandalorians. They don't. That's fine. They'll shut up. Just take it and go back and be like, yo, I got the dark saber. Let's go.
Yeah. They don't even care.
Right? Shoot. So, but anyway, that's everything that I have to say on it. Was there anything else that you had to say that you want to get off your chest?
I thought Bo-Katan's castle looked really cool.
It did. It really did. And when you watch the Clone Wars, the capital that her sister occupies. Her sister is the Duchess Satine. When you see like the design and the seat, it's almost exactly what you see in the Mandalorian. Like there's obviously it's on Mandalore, and Mandalore is kind of like almost like Coruscant, where it's like this huge city and a bunch going on. So there's a bunch of stuff surrounding it, but the chamber is almost verbatim what they did in Mandalorian. So as somebody who's like watched the Clone Wars and seen like that architecture before, it was very cool seeing it in live action.
Cool.
So nice. All right then. So that's gonna be it from us. We're gonna get out of here. But if you guys want to see us talk about this and more, you can check us out on our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/CFD Films. It'd be great to see you over there. But what did you guys think about the first two episodes of Mandalorian? Of season 3? Does it have you excited to see more of the season? Did you kind of feel like we did, where it's kind of like it's not really off to a great start, but we'll probably still just keep watching because it's Star Wars? Whatever you thought about it, comment below. Let us know. And right down there, if you guys would like, share, and subscribe. Even if you don't, though, I have been Chris, and this has been
Cheryl, and it wasn't that good.